Hello everyone, my name is Shane, and in this video, we're going to be checking out the Samsung Galaxy A15 5G. This phone is available at the time of this video. I'll have some links in the description if you want to check it out for yourself. The retail price is $200. Now, I am super excited for this phone, not only because it offers a lot for the price, but there's a lot of noteworthy upgrades going on here over the previous Galaxy A14, such as an upgrade to an AMOLED display compared to an LCD screen. We have a new 5-megapixel ultra wide lens on this phone compared to the 2-megapixel depth sensor we've seen on these A series phones for ages. We also have for the first time Samsung's 25-watt super fast charging available on this level of A series phone compared to the 15-watt fast charging we've been seeing for the last few years. We also have a brighter screen on this phone, which we'll check out later in the video. It comes in two different colors. We have light blue and this blue-black color we're going to be checking out here today. It's packed with 128 gigabytes of storage and 4 gigabytes of RAM, but there are other models that go up to 256 gigabytes of storage and 8 gigabytes of RAM for more money. With all that out of the way, let's go ahead and see what we get in the box for $200. At the top, we have some packaging. Under that, we have our device. Inside the box, we have a SIM ejection tool, in addition to a USB Type-C to Type-C charging cable, and a little bit of paperwork. But let's go ahead and check out the star of the show here, the Galaxy A15 5G. The blue-black color here, you can see that we definitely have some color changing going on depending on your lighting situation. So you can see this looks pretty much black here in this angle. But if you turn the phone in different directions, you can see that blue hue coming through. Here's our first look at the new triple lens setup. But now taking a physical tour of this phone, we have what feels like plastic sidings and a plastic back on this phone. On the right side, we have our volume rockers and our power button with what looks like the fingerprint sensor built in. Looks like we can reach this perfectly fine. On the left side, we have our SIM tray, which has room for one SIM card on this side and a second SIM card on the other side, or a micro SD card. So love the expandable storage here. On the top, we have one mic, and on the bottom, we have a headphone jack, have another mic, Type-C port, again capable of 25-watt super fast charge, and our speaker here with the new speaker grill design Samsung's been putting on all their new phones. It's also worth noting we have a little bit of a different design here on this A15. You can see that the power button and volume rocker area is just raised up a little bit, but overall we have what is a nice looking phone and has a nice feel in the hand initially. Let's go ahead and boot up. It has now been a couple of months since my last recording. I've been using this Galaxy A15 as one of my primary phones for the last couple of months. I'm definitely ready to share my full thoughts on it. Starting with the biometrics getting into this phone, we have the fingerprint sensor here on the side. Gets me into the phone every single time. Sometimes you just have to wait a little bit longer though. I'm sure that has to do with the processor in this phone, a lower end chipset. But so you do just have to wait a bit longer for it to unlock. We also have face recognition on this phone, which is also very accurate. It gets me in every single time. Just keep in mind that you do have to just wait a split second longer with this phone in general to get into it. And once you're in, you'll be greeted by the new AMOLED display. This is a 6.5-inch 1080p 90 Hz refresh rate display. I've definitely been enjoying this screen in my first couple of months of usage. So for a quick point of comparison, this is my Galaxy A13 5G from a couple of years ago. One of the biggest differences I immediately noticed with this A15 is that the viewing angles are way better over here on this A15. You can see that the A13 screen pretty much dims out. Mind you, this is at maximum brightness. Whereas on the A15, it has a very good display overall. So nice resolution, nice refresh rate, and some of the games I've been playing, I'll show some gaming later. In addition to the great visuals and the good viewing angles, there's also very high brightness on this phone. It has 800 nits of maximum brightness. For me, in my personal usage, it's been more than enough. If you have it out in direct sunlight, you can see it might not get as bright as some of Samsung's other higher end phones, but it's definitely enough to see it in any scenario you might be in. There is a fair amount of bezel with this phone. There is a bit of a chin at the bottom, but it doesn't make the phone any larger or anything, so it is excusable in my opinion. Here's a quick good, better, best comparison with the mid-range A54 and the flagship S24 Plus here. These are all pretty much the same size physically. You can just see that there is a little bit less bezel each tier you do go up. We also don't have the hole punch front-facing cutout here, just that classic teardrop design. We are still getting plenty of screen real estate here with the 6.5 inches. I've been watching a lot of content on this phone. It's perfectly fine for just your average media consumption needs. Taking a look at their performance, this is packed with the Dimensity 6100 Plus processor. A lot of your average everyday tasks are going to be perfectly fine on this phone. You might not always get that smooth 90 Hz refresh rate just because some things take a little longer to load. You will occasionally experience slowdowns and hiccups in some of the animations and things like that, but overall this works perfectly fine in a lot of your social media apps and just going ahead and jumping into a video. This has a nice feel in the hand when you're watching YouTube with the plastic sides and backing. It's super smooth to come up here to your control panel and go ahead and change any of your settings at a moment's notice. Now, the biggest limitation I've noticed with this phone is the 4 gigabytes of RAM. The RAM limitation is definitely a thing on this phone. When you go to open previously used applications, they just pretty much restart themselves. So for example, if I go into here to Slick Deals, I scroll down a little bit, I spend some time on here looking for a deal. I see here, okay, the Tab S9 FE for $350. Scroll down to the comments, start to read some insights from other people, maybe go and check this out myself online on Chrome. So show this in real time here. I switch over to Chrome, go to Samsung.com. So a little bit of loading time between your web pages. Let's go ahead and check out the Tab S9 FE. There is some haptic feedback on this phone. When you do type, it feels fine. Check this out for a bit. Check out some of the configurations. Check out some of the color options. So mind you, I switched over to this 30 seconds ago. If I go back here and now I switch back to the Slick Deals app, I didn't do anything else on the phone before this. You can see that it completely closed out the application and I'm back to where I started. I have to scroll back down, find where I was. When you're not able to even cross-reference between two different applications side by side right after one another, that is definitely a limitation of this phone. We'll do one more RAM test here. I was playing this game last night. Let's see if it kept my progress. Nope, it's going to restart it. It definitely is worth considering the higher gigabyte RAM models if you can get it. But now jumping into some games, because I've been surprised at how many games I have been able to play on this. I've had no problems playing some of my lighter games like Downwell. So this is a game that's been out forever and I've played it on a ton of different phones, but this is a lower end phone, so you want to be sure that you can at least play some lighter games, some more casual things. I've been really enjoying playing old school RuneScape on this device because of that 90 Hz refresh rate. You can definitely notice it. It makes your game super smooth and buttery. This is really the best way to appreciate a higher refresh screen if you are considering one. And as far as playing games on this with a mobile controller, I would say the 6.5 inch screen is just enough for this to be a pretty enjoyable experience, but it definitely gets the job done. I've had no problems playing Stardew Valley. Granted, this is a lighter game, a more intensive use case playing Dolphin Emulator. I was actually able to play some of my games smoothly on this at a 720p resolution, so I had to slightly lower the resolution from my usual 1080p on some of my higher end Samsung phones. But with that said, it's still been a very enjoyable experience. To my surprise, it didn't take too much of a major dent on the battery. We'll get into some battery usage here next, but overall, been really enjoying the gaming experience on this phone, which I wasn't even really expecting to have. Looking at the battery life, my most recent use case, I was able to get 7 hours and 45 minutes of screen on time over the course of 2.5 days. This consisted of watching 2.5 hours of YouTube, playing that old school RuneScape for 2 hours. Mind you, that runs on that 90 Hz refresh rate, which should take more battery. An hour of web browsing on Chrome, half an hour on that Slick Deals app, testing out the camera a little bit in preparation for this video. I have my Galaxy Fit 3 connected to this phone. That could take a little bit of battery life. I'll have a review on that Fit 3 coming soon. But overall, with the 5,000 milliamp hour battery packed in here, you're definitely going to be able to get through any day of usage. And as I mentioned before, we have the 25 watt super fast charging on this phone. I'm super happy to see this at this level of A series phone. So we're now able to get up to 73% after 45 minutes of charging, and a full charge can be done in a little over an hour and 20 minutes. Taking a closer look at the cameras now, we have the primary 50 megapixel lens. We also have that new 5 megapixel ultra wide lens, and then there's also a 2 megapixel macro lens. So first and foremost, the new ultra wide lens. Here's use a couple examples to show you what you can expect out of switching from that main lens to that ultra wide lens, how much more you're able to fit into the frame. We also have the 50 megapixel mode on that primary lens, which if you do pixel peep and zoom into some of your images, you can notice that there is more detail and results in your 50 megapixel shots compared to just the standard 12 megapixel photos. But as far as just your average everyday pictures, I've been really happy using both the 12 and 50 megapixel modes. The results either way, as long as you're in good lighting, come out really well. On the front facing side of things, just your average selfies also look fine. Here's one using the portrait mode. There's a ton of different selfie options in the Samsung software. Switching over to the video side of things, this films at a maximum of 1080p 30. There is no image stabilization here, so you might get shaky results depending on what filming situation you're in, but it is nice that you can switch to the 2x digital zoom in real time while you're filming. As far as that digital zoom, you are able to zoom up to 10 times if you want to. And the front-facing camera also films in 1080p 30 resolution, and might not be the highest specs out there, but honestly, this image quality looks good to me. Definitely gets the job done for any of your video calls and conferences. And the macro lens, I honestly don't really use too much. I took a couple shots for just the use case of this video. Keep in mind on the standard lens, this is how close you can get to a subject. And then the macro lens, it does allow you to get closer, but it's a lot harder to get a crisp image on that 2 megapixel macro mode. But overall, again, I've been really happy with the whole camera setup here, pictures and video. It definitely gets the job done for your average use cases. So overall, all things considered, I've been really enjoying this A15 in my first couple months of usage. I've done a lot more on this phone than what I was originally expecting, and I think it's definitely fair to say that this is a nicely upgraded option over the previous A14 and all the previous models that were like it. We have a lot of really good upgrades here with the AMOLED display, the fast charging, the pretty good performance. A couple of extra things I did want to mention, I couldn't find room for them elsewhere in the video. There is not a screen recorder option on this phone. I looked all around for it. I couldn't find it. For some reason, you cannot record your screen on this phone if you would get it. Something I've definitely appreciated though, maybe this is a thing on all Samsung phones. I didn't know if it was at this level all the time. You can put this phone into landscape, which again is really nice for when you're navigating through the phone if you have this in a mobile controller like I showed earlier. And there is just the single bottom firing speaker on the bottom. Your phone calls sound perfectly fine with the top speaker, but there definitely is a little bit less of a good audio experience with just the single speaker compared to something if you bump up to the Galaxy A54 or the new A55 or A35. So it is worth mentioning, it gets plenty loud enough. It just doesn't sound as good as some of Samsung's other stereo speaker setups. But with all things considered, I can definitely recommend this phone if you're on a bit of a budget. And since this phone has been out for a few months now, you might be able to score a cheaper option like the 6GB RAM model on Amazon here for $164. There's definitely going to be some more discounted models. The standard one here in the US is still at $200 with the 4GB of RAM, 128 storage. But if you look at potentially some international or other models, you'll definitely be able to find some good deals on this phone. I'll have some links in the description with the latest pricing, but I'm curious to hear your thoughts on the Galaxy A15 5G down in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, then be sure to give it a thumbs up, and please consider subscribing to the Shane Symonds YouTube channel today, because next up, we're going to be checking out the Galaxy A35. This is Samsung's main mid-range option being offered here in the US, and it comes in at twice the price of this A15, so I'm interested to see what is better and improved on this one over this guy. Thanks so much for watching. Take care.